This is Detective Recapped. Today I'm going to explain a coming-of-age drama film called About Cherry. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Angelina is an 18-year-old girl living with her alcoholic mother, Phyllis, and younger sister, Jojo. She works at a laundromat while attending high school with her best friend, Andrew. Angelina's a hard worker for sure, but like most other people her age, she doesn't really know what to do with her life. After her mother's usual bout of binge drinking and vomiting, she asks Andrew to drop her off at a nightclub so she can meet up with her boyfriend, Bobby. While watching Bobby perform with the band, a man spots Angelina, and he gives her a very obscene look. The man's name is Vaughn, a photographer, and Angelina's fully piqued his interest. When the band finishes their performance, Bobby joins with Angelina and he leads her out of the bar to spend a passionate night together. After their amorous activity, Bobby describes to Angelina just how attractive she is and tells her that she should take pictures. Then he brings up Vaughn and the money she can get if she poses for him, but Angelina isn't quite convinced. With her resistance to the idea, Bobby goads her by insulting her job at the laundromat and her mother. Irritated, she aggressively puts on her pants and storms out of the room, but not without cursing at Bobby and slamming the door shut. Angelina returns home to her sleeping mother and hungry sister. She quickly makes food but finds out that there isn't really anything in their pantry. While cooking, her mother's boyfriend, Poe, returns from work and deliberately brushes by her. He grabs a glass of whiskey and silently stares at her before walking off to another room. That night, while sleeping on the sofa with her sister, Angelina wakes up from her sleep. She feels Poe standing just a few feet away from them and watching her. Cautious now, Angelina remains awake and unmoving until she hears Poe walking away. At school during lunch break, Andrew offers half of his sandwich to Angelina. With a cigarette in hand, she refuses, saying that she will eat later. Andrew reminds her that everyone will eat later, and if she'll keep waiting until the next meal to eat, then she'll just starve to death. Angelina just smiles at him and touches his face before continuing to smoke to stave off her hunger pangs. Angelina walks to a warehouse to look for Vaughn, and she finds him finishing up with a shoot. She introduces herself, and Vaughn explains what she needs to do and how the shoot will go. With that, they start the shoot, and things go smoothly until Angelina sees Bobby, which makes her feel awkward. Noticing this, Vaughn immediately issues another instruction to Angelina, letting the rest of the pictorial go on without a hitch. Afterwards, Bobby takes Angelina home, and just before she walks to her house, he tells her that he doesn't want her taking pictures without Vaughn again. In turn, she retorts that he should just make up his mind. Bobby starts getting an inkling that he's about to lose his girlfriend, so he shuts off his engine and asks her to come with him. Unfortunately for him, Angelina steely refuses and turns her back on Bobby, ending their relationship. The next morning, Angelina walks to the kitchen where her mother is dazedly waiting for her. While packing her backpack, Angelina lies to her mother about having a test today, and Phyllis encourages her, saying that she'll do great because Angelina's the smartest person she knows. Feeling guilty about what she's planning to do, Angelina avoids looking at Phyllis and hurriedly finishes with her bag. Then she tells her mom that she has to go before kissing her and telling her that she loves her. With that, Angelina walks out of their house. On their way to San Francisco, Andrew glances at Angelina, who is looking outside the window as her hand feels the wind pass by. She asks him how San Francisco would be like, and he answers that it will be different. Angelina optimistically agrees with him, then mentions the ad she found on Craigslist for a room that they can rent. The two stop at a motel to rest, and while lying on the bed, Angelina thanks Andrew for coming with her, then gingerly kisses his hand. The next day, they rush through San Francisco streets in search for the apartment. They soon meet Paco, and he's looking for a new roommate since his old one left. He assumes that Andrew and Angelina are a couple, but they immediately tell him they're not. Though the room only has one bed, Angelina's pleased and excited, especially for the life that awaits them there. She tells Paco that it's perfect and that they'll take it. And so the two best friends easily settle with Paco and start their new life in the city. The three of them effortlessly get along together, and they develop friendship and familiarity with each other. Eventually, Angelina calls her family, but Phyllis is still furious about her leaving. Angelina begs her to let her speak with Jojo, but Phyllis asserts that Jojo doesn't want to talk to her. Dejected, Angelina's tears fall, and she goes out of the room to get a drink. When Andrew notices her mood, he approaches her and gives her a hug. Angelina lets her vulnerability take over as she bursts into tears while her best friend assures her that everything will be okay. Angelina soon finds a job as a server in a strip club. While on her shift, she delivers a drink to a table with two guys. One of them gives her a big bill, saying that it's her tip. Surprised by the gesture, Angelina looks at the customer before making her way back to the bar. She shares with Amber that there's a big tipper on her table, so Amber encourages her to try dancing since it pays better. However, Angelina's hesitant about it and mentions that she's only done picture taking before. Amber then suggests that if she's comfortable with getting photographed, then she should hook up with BOD since they pay their girls $800 a day. Intrigued, Angelina asks her for the details. On the other side of the town, Andrew roams the streets with Paco and enjoying the dynamic nightlife of San Francisco. They enter a club and Andrew discovers the wild side of the San Francisco partygoers. Back at Angelina's workplace, the big tipper and his friend get thrown out of the club for being handsy with one of the dancers. Later, Andrew gets home to a sleeping Angelina. Try as he may to keep quiet, he still wakes her up, but she doesn't mind this. As Andrew shares that Paco is a lot of fun, Angelina sleepily promises him that someday he'll find the perfect person for him. She then falls into a deep sleep while hugging Andrew's thighs. With Angelina fully asleep, Andrew quietly asks what if he finds the perfect person, but she doesn't find him back. One time, Angelina is alone in the room, lounging on the bed and reading a magazine. Lost in that idyllic moment, she soon starts touching herself. Angelina then removes her shirt and sits up from the bed to face the mirror, slowly lowering her bra straps as if teasing someone. Her gaze stays fixed on herself in the mirror, contemplating. Angelina meets up with a BOD representative for an interview, where Angelina introduces herself as Cherry. The representative explains that their company is all about fetishes and power plays. So Angelina would likely have to start out as a bottom, meaning she'll be the one being tied up. But after that, Angelina can work her way to the top, if you catch her drift. After establishing Angelina's limits and whether she's fine with the girl touching her, they finalize a scene for her. On the day of the shoot, a nervous Angelina gets her makeup done before meeting with the director, Margaret. True to the hearsay about her being a good director, Margaret makes sure that Angelina feels at ease while giving out her instructions. She showers Angelina with compliments, boosting her confidence until they finish the scene without a problem. After the shoot, Margaret sincerely praises her for the scene and hopes that they can work together again. Back in the strip club, Angelina is reading an art magazine when Francis approaches her to apologize for an incident that happened the other night. Noticing the magazine, he tells her about an upcoming exhibit, and Angelina asks if he wants a drink. Francis lets her choose the drink, so she grabs a glass of whiskey and spits on it while Francis looks on. She hands the glass to him, and despite what she did, he decisively drinks it. With that, he asks her to go to the exhibit with him. While preparing for her date, Andrew reminds Angelina that they were supposed to go to the movies, and she quickly apologizes for forgetting. After promising to do something with him later, Angelina goes, and she comes across Paco on her way out. He tells her that her mom called to say she wants to visit, but he assures her that he doesn't mind. In the exhibit, Francis introduces Angelina to his mother, Mrs. Larmond, who is also the exhibit's host. After a charming introduction courtesy of Francis, his mother awkwardly asks Angelina about her work in the strip club, but she informs her that she's already working somewhere else. Francis apologizes, but Angelina doesn't mind. In fact, she's actually happy that he isn't hiding her. With their date underway, they wander around the exhibit while Francis explains the pieces to her. In a secluded place, The two of them sniff some drugs at Francis's invitation, and Angelina wonders how Francis knows so much about art. He shares that he used to paint, but since he wasn't very good, nor was he able to handle the struggles that come with being an artist, he decided to go into law instead. Before dawn comes, the sky is still dark as they climb onto a rooftop. There, Angelina asks Francis if he still paints, and he answers that he doesn't have the time anymore. She points out that he has time for strip clubs, fancy parties, and her, to which he answers that he makes time for important things. When Francis mentions that his most recent painting is 10 years old, Angelina muses that she was probably in 3rd grade during that time. In turn, Francis comments on how grown up she is now before the two share a kiss. In a dressing room, Angelina prepares herself for another one of her lewd shoots. This time, it's for Girls Club, and she will be acting with another actress. As Margaret looks through Angelina's photos in her laptop, it's very clear that the woman is enthralled by her. Just then, her girlfriend, Jillian, walks in with groceries and notices Angelina's picture. She asks Margaret about her before pointing out the girl's young age, but Margaret assures her she's legal. Margaret heads to the Four Leaf Bar by herself, and there she sees her friend. As Margaret orders some bourbon, her friend comments that she only orders that when there's somebody pulling at her heartstrings, and Margaret simply reminds her that she's in a relationship. Just then, she notices Angelina on the other side of the bar and waves at her. And when Margaret's friend notices this, she starts teasing her about Angelina and how flustered she's getting. After having some drinks, Margaret gets home to an irate Jillian. She confronts Margaret about looking at Angelina's photos, when those pictures aren't even from her shoot or her site. Jillian stresses that Angelina's just a child, but Margaret defends herself, asserting that it's her job to look at photos. She reminds Jillian that they've been together for 8 years before asking her if she's only realizing now what her job actually entails. Aggravated, Jillian angrily turns her back on Margaret. Later on, Angelina walks into their home and is surprised to see her mom having a beer with Paco, while her withdrawn sister is playing some video games. Phyllis tells Jojo to greet her sister, but Jojo refuses to. While Phyllis notices that Angelina is all dolled up, she teasingly asks her if she has a hot date. So Paco chimes in and shares that Francis is a hot lawyer. Intrigued, Phyllis insists that they go to dinner and meet Francis. They wait for Francis at a restaurant, and when he's not showing up, Phyllis starts interrogating Angelina about him. But she's quick to make excuses for him and promises that he isn't usually like this. She then goes out to make a call, and when she returns, Angelina tells them that something last minute came up for Francis, so he'll be late. Knowingly, Phyllis reminds her of a relative of theirs who kept working late, which made her miss all of their gatherings. But as it turned out, the relative was just doing drugs, and Phyllis observes that Francis is the same. She then tells her daughter that the thing with addicts is they don't call first. You have to remind them to lie to you. After dinner, they take a stroll, and since Phyllis is concerned about her daughter's relationship, she advises her about Francis. Speaking from experience, Phyllis doesn't think too highly of him, and she wishes that Angelina were with Andrew instead, who she considers to be a very decent young man. At home, Angelina learns that Jojo hasn't been feeling well lately. She needs to get checked, but they don't have the money or insurance for it. Angelina assures her mom that she only needs to tell her, and she'll help with the money. Phyllis is proud of Angelina, and she praises her for doing so well for herself. But she still asks her not to tell her sister anything. While Angelina's running late for work, she comes across Margaret on the way to the set. She apologizes for being late, but Margaret tells her that it's not a problem since Angelina's the most important person there, so everyone will wait for her. Comfortable around her, Angelina shares her real name with Margaret, and she hopes that they can work together again soon. After work, Francis turns up outside Angelina's workplace. He apologizes with flowers, and the two of them reconcile. When she returns home, she finds her mom hurriedly packing their things. Phyllis subtly confronts her about her job, which Angelina said was her temping at an accounting firm, but it seems that Phyllis knows what she's actually doing now, and Jojo reveals that she's not actually sick and that she doesn't need an operation. A certain realization hits Angelina, and she repeatedly apologizes to her sister. But Jojo only tells her that she'll leave soon too. Done with her packing, Phyllis storms out of the house with Jojo. Meanwhile, Jillian attends a work party that Margaret shows up late for since she had some problems with her shoot. Jillian then introduces her girlfriend to her coworker, who curiously asks Margaret what she does. To Jillian's dismay, Margaret shares that she's an adult movie director. While her colleague walks off to the bar, Jillian furiously confronts Margaret about her sharing what her job is, despite their previous agreement about this. The two end up having another argument with the both of them jabbing at each other's jobs. It all culminates to Margaret admitting that she doesn't like the people in the party and asking why Jillian even bothered inviting her. Jillian retorts that she's her girlfriend and that this is what normal people do. By the time they get home, Jillian's still riled up from the party, and she ends up aggressively making love to Margaret, her actions fierce and punishing. Margaret soon wakes up to an empty apartment with Jillian's belongings missing from it. As she looks out of the window with nothing but the silence of the apartment embracing her, Margaret accepts that Jillian has left her. In a park, Angelina shares with Andrew that she's thinking of progressing from her usual girl-on-girl shoots to a guy-on-girl one. Distressed, Andrew tries to convince Angelina not to do it. But his words are unheeded, as on set, Angelina is sitting with another actor for her first guy-on-girl shoot. Margaret walks them through the scene, and she ends up very satisfied with Angelina's performance. Later on, Francis picks up Angelina from work. He offers her a snort, but she refuses, saying that she doesn't need to be high to be with him. Surprisingly, Francis suddenly confesses that he hates Angelina's job and that he's disgusted by it and her. Of course, she's baffled and hurt by Francis's outburst, and she asserts that their relationship isn't going anywhere and that he should just take her home. But because of Francis's less than sober state, they get into an accident, and Angelina ends up with a cut on her forehead. When Angelina returns home from her agonizing day, she catches Andrew getting himself off to one of her movies. She gets incredibly angry and disappointed because of this, so she packs up her stuff as she intends on leaving then and there. But at that point, Andrew's so fed up with everything that he finally confronts her, saying that she treats him like a pet and that he waits for her to come home every night so they can hang out, while all she gives him are crumbs, like she's not even there. However, Angelina tells him that she is there, but he just never realizes it because the girl he's waiting for to come home doesn't exist. Then she asks Andrew if he loves her, but when he doesn't respond, she tells him that he doesn't love her enough to jerk off to someone else. Angelina ends up in Four Leaf, where she has a chance encounter with Margaret. She shares that she received a letter from Phyllis telling her that she's disappointed in her, while Margaret reveals her own life's woes to her. Soon, they share a passionate kiss and spend the night together. Fast forward to the future, Angelina moves in with Margaret, and they share a life together as a couple. Angelina's still working in the industry with her girlfriend, only that she's graduated from being a model to being a director too.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.